Good win for senior day, no question. Pleased that we could send those guys out the right way. I think our staff did a good job getting the team prepared. Thought we played really hard in the game, physical in the game, really met our expectations from a toughness standpoint. I do think that we have issues that we need to fix. We did have a few uncharacteristic penalties, which were undisciplined choices by the players. I do think from a summary standpoint, offensively, we stalled out on the drive because of a false start. I think we made some decisions at quarterback that led to a couple of stalls in the red zone. We had a turnover. And I think defensively we struggled on the perimeter playing blocks. We did not play the sweep series very well on the perimeter and really struggled throughout the night on conversion downs. That's an area where we've got to improve. And then there's a significant drop-off when our twos go in the game, and that's pretty evident. And game changers, wish we could have executed the hand situation a little bit better, and I think the returner communication has to improve. So good win. We've positioned ourselves. We are in contention, and no matter what's happened in the past, we're right where we need to be relative to accomplishing a goal, which is to win the Western Division. And certainly, I think it's this time of the year really challenges everything about who you are. I think in football right now it challenges your belief, your ownership, what type of discipline you have, your toughness, your commitment to the team, the togetherness that you play with and prepare with. Ultimately, it's about our identity as a team right now and what we're willing to do to go find a way to get it done. So we did have a good look in our eyes Sunday. I'm anxious to watch these guys compete this weekend, but we must turn our focus and attention to the time we have between now and then and prepare at a really high level. So with that, we'll take a few questions.
You probably don't, but how do you wrap your mind around the fact that you could have one game left, you could have 3 games left?
Right. Well, you just have plan A, plan B. Sometimes it's even C. I think really the thing that it affects right now is recruiting, obviously because of the championship week is a contact week relative to recruiting. And certainly not knowing what bowl game you may end up in affects your calendar from a recruiting standpoint. So we've got several contingency plans in place for recruiting, and that's probably the biggest thing that it affects. I mean, we're in the same mode we were in a couple of weeks ago relative to the divisional format and the championship game, and that's just find a way to win in advance, which is exciting for our players and our staff, and certainly something that we look forward to.
From what you've seen of ULM's quarterback, Caleb Evans, what's your first impression, and what do you think he does really well?
Well, I think he's an outstanding player. He really runs their system at a really efficient rate. One of the better quarterbacks in our league. I think he's a good athlete. He's a threat to run the ball. He's a threat to extend pass plays. You got to contain him in the pocket, and you've got to do a good job staying in coverage when he does extend the play. So he's been very effective throwing the ball and rushing the ball, and presents a number of challenges for you.
How much do you know about the ULM rivalry series, and how interesting is it that is now intertwined with all that's on the line too?
Well, I think it's a great thing that this game is at the end of the year. Very similar to places that I've been in the past, whether that's Clemson in South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, Arizona State. So certainly this game means a little more, and I think our players and staff are very aware of that. So it just magnifies the importance that we prepare at a really high level this week.
Is it a normal prep week for you, or do you give any concession to the holiday?
Yeah, we do. Basically, our blueprint is we move everything up 3 hours on Thursday, give them an opportunity to go home. Players that maybe are within 2.5 hours, those guys, we allow them an opportunity to go home and be with their families, and then, just get back here by a certain time on Friday before we meet, walk through, travel. We will have a team luncheon on Friday for Thanksgiving prior to starting meetings. So, but I think we've got a good plan, and inform the players about that Sunday. So I think we've got a good plan. And, the players that can't travel, they either go home with players or go with their position coach, my house, whatever the case may be.
Coach, you mentioned a minute ago your team's identity. How would you define that right now at this point in the season?
I think it's a resilient group. I think it's a group that has bought into the improvement approach, I guess is what I would say. I mean, we've seen ownership grow every week a little bit better relative to taking ownership of how they prepare, how they practice, what type of self-discipline they have. I think we've gotten better relative to how we compete on game day, what type of poise we play with. Just in general, a group that is developing more belief, more confidence, learning how to go about their business the right way. And I think that's what's most important, especially this time of the year.
That being said, you've got guys on this team that have never been in a position really to play for a championship. Are you concerned a little bit about that?
I don't think I think it'd be as much of, I think it's a huge positive in my opinion. Just makes things more relevant. I think there's a set of problems that go with that. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just happy to be here and certainly proud of our team for the way that they've stayed the course, stayed focused on what was important, and got ourselves in contention.
Part of this might go to the depth issue, but is it satisfying to you that, you haven't had a lot of situations where you've had guys yanked in and out and, unnecessarily moving guys around and you've had some stability basically in
Right.
your lineup on both sides?
Yeah, it's been huge. I think our strength staff's done a great job. I think our long-term plan has worked. I think the way we put our off-season program together, and we tweaked some things compared to maybe what we did at Alabama. Some of that is input from Clemson, input from Arizona State, certainly Colorado State, very similar group of five situation, overtaking the team. Our visit to the LA Rams for 4 days was huge relative to how we structure practice and the amount of volume that we put on the players. So, we've done a good job. I think our strength staff has done a good job, and I think we researched it, modified it, and I think it's worked throughout. So I'm pleased with the injury rate. We've had our bumps and bruises. Most of those are contact related, which is part of the game. So.
The other part of that maybe I'm getting at is you haven't had to pull a whole lot of guys because of ineffectiveness.
Right.
You've been
Yeah.
able to
Made good
find-
decisions. I think we've obviously created competition, and I think that's why we've been able to get a lot out of them. Offensively, we've got a little more stability and experience, but defensively, I think there's the play count for each guy maybe it tweaks a little bit week in and week out based on how they practice. But in general, we've done a good job creating competition. I think the players have responded, and we've had some stability relative to who's playing for sure.
How did the trip to the Rams come about and who went?
Les Need, the general manager, a good friend of mine. Myself, Mark Hockey, our strength coach, and William Pegler, our director of player personnel and QC coordinator. We all went out there for a couple of days.
McDowell status, Garor, any other injury updates?
We think that McDowell is it's going to be all about how he progresses this week. He was going to move around a little bit today. It's about swelling for him, whether or not he swells as the week goes. We'll have a modified format for him throughout the week, similar to what we did with Elijah Mitchell, just kind of a little bit of an incremental workload relative to Saturday. But I'll be able to tell you exactly where we're at with him on Wednesday. Eric looks great. We did not play him Saturday. Wasn't quite 100%, so we felt like it would be better to hold him, make sure he's 100%, because out there, you got to be at your best. We'll get Farad Gardner back, I feel like, and then still Tariq Miller. We don't anticipate him be available for the game. I think that's pretty much it from an injury standpoint.
South Alabama's had to run football, like I said, on the
Right.
perimeter and so forth. I know Monroe doesn't do a lot of the similar things, but there's something you try to tweak as far as scheme-wise there.
Yeah, we just didn't do a great job on the perimeter, playing the blocks. The fits weren't exactly the way we wanted them to be. I'd give South Alabama some credit. They did some really good things in the game that created some issues for us. But once we kind of settled in, I thought we did a better job in that regard. But, you know, that's something that we've got to fix, and I think our coaches and players are aware of that.
Are you not worried about seeing surprises like you did against South Al? You know, that was a 2-8 team that, you know, had nothing to lose, whereas now you're facing a team that a lot of what they've done has been successful, so they're likelier to not go away from it.
I mean, I think South Alabama has a talented team. In my opinion, their personnel, I mean, I think they have a number of players that are big, fast, strong, explosive. I think that that's a team that's played a very difficult schedule if you look at who they played. And they're in their first year as a staff, so they've had a little bit of a revolving door at quarterback. You know, against us, obviously, the guy that started the season played really well. So I think they had enough skill. I thought they did a good job in the run game. Certainly their plan was nothing to lose, go for it on fourth, try to get it to third and short, fourth and short, and they executed that. That's where we need to correct some of the deficiencies that we had on conversion downs. I think they had 18 plays of 10 or more yards. 9 of those were on third or fourth down. So, you know, just to give you an indication of third down and fourth down were huge parts of that game.
How effective has Manak been since he's been back compared to beforehand? And did you know what you were getting with him, or was it even
I think
more?
Yeah, I think Manak impacts the game. I think he's a big physical player on the edge. I think he does a good job. I thought he probably was a little more effective 2 weeks ago than he was Saturday. But in general, he plays really hard. He's gotten more and more consistent. He's more disciplined. He's more assignment sound, and his technique has improved. So, but we certainly knew what we were getting because we had past experience with him.
ULM's defense has improved since over last year a lot, and then since the start of the year. What do you say on them defensively?
Well, first of all, they've added 3 new additions on that side of the ball in their staff. You know, corners coach, defensive line coach, and safeties coach. So I think that insurgence maybe has helped them. I think in general they're simpler. There are a few tweaks schematically, but I think they just got a group of players that play really hard. I think they play with great effort. I think they've got overall pretty daggone good team speed, and it's a group that is complemented by an explosive offense and do a good job playing well together.
Rams and Chiefs.
Wow, great question. You know, I know Garrick Dieter is one of my former players at Alabama, just got elevated to the active roster in Kansas City, so it'd be hard not to pull for him. But I also know Les pretty well as well. So sometimes in the NFL it's more about who you know than what team. But pretty obvious the Saints are rolling pretty good, so they're going to be tough to beat, I would imagine.
You've got 2 guys on your staff that spent some time up at ULM. Is that something that you really draw a lot from? Is it different team, different thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most situations, a little more familiar with the personnel. And certainly schematically, both of those coaches, Coach Powell and Leger, were on offense. So, you know, I think it is what it is. Typical of most transitions like that, you're more familiar with them. Rob Sell also worked with Coach V in the past as well. So, you know, and they're going to be familiar with what we do. So I don't think, if you look back at Coach Viator obviously was at McNeese when Coach Roberts was at Southeastern. So there's all kind of relationships here that carry over. Patrick Toney worked with our coordinator on defense. I mean, there's lots of interchangeable parts here.
Anything else for Coach?
Stuffing or sweet potatoes?
I'm a dressing guy, man. There's no doubt. But we'll take sweet potatoes too. Only if you got marshmallows on top. All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Have a good week.